Hokkaido lies in the northern part of Japan. Located in its southwestern region is the town of Biratori. Nurtured by rich nature flows the gently winding Saru River. The Ainu, Japan's indigenous people, have lived along this riverside since ancient times. The Ainu are the indigenous people of the northern Japanese archipelago, particularly Hokkaido. Biratori is known for its thriving agriculture, with such specialties as Wagyu beef and tomatoes. Its way of life, deeply rooted in harmony with nature, continues to this day. The Nibutani district is especially known for its active preservation of Ainu traditions. In September 2025, it welcomed indigenous peoples from around the world for the Biratori Nibutani International Indigenous Peoples Forum 2025.
Thank you for coming so far. I'm very happy you could be here today.
On behalf of the Ainu people, I would like to welcome you and express my heartfelt gratitude.
The forum brought together indigenous peoples including the Blackfeet, Inuit, Sami, and Maori from countries and regions including the United States, Canada, Finland, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and Taiwan. The purpose was to exchange knowledge and ideas on how to protect, nurture, and preserve indigenous cultures for future generations, while working toward further development. During the 5-day forum, the international participants observed how Ainu culture is being preserved and handed down in Japan. They also visited Upopoi, the National Ainu Museum and Park in Shiraoi, a hub for the revival and development of Ainu culture. Presentations were held on the current status of various indigenous peoples, with emphasis on the importance of revitalizing and preserving their unique cultures.
I think it's very special, the connection that Indigenous people have with one another.
I think the world community can also learn from the knowledge of Indigenous peoples.
The songs and dances of Indigenous peoples, the bonds among nations deepened through exchange. This program will showcase the value of Ainu culture as experienced by Indigenous participants from around the world, and highlights from the 5-day forum, looking to the future. It is the first day of the forum. In the Ainu language, Kotan means village, and here in Nibutani, a traditional Ainu settlement has been recreated. The Ainu people welcomed participants from abroad, inviting them into their traditional houses, known as chise.
それではこれより本フォーラムの完成成功と
This was the Kamui no Mi, a prayer ceremony. The Ainu hold a unique worldview in which spirits reside in all things. Animals or forces that play an important role in human life or exert strong influence are called kamui. And this Kamui no Mi was held to offer prayers to these deities, as well as express gratitude for meeting new friends from around the world, and pray that blessings be bestowed upon all.
We want to see more young people participate and understand how they can engage with indigenous peoples around the world. It's important for us to help everyone understand the current situation of the Ainu as Japan's indigenous people, and for us all to see how the various indigenous communities around the world are finding solutions and addressing challenges. By comparing these, we can also better understand whether we Ainu in Japan are relatively fortunate or at a disadvantage. We hope the forum will be an experience where we can all feel and learn these lessons firsthand.
The international groups were able to experience the culture that the Ainu people have cultivated since ancient times. At the Nibutani Ainu Culture Museum, traditional daily tools and ritual implements are on display, offering insight into the Ainu way of life, one that has long existed in harmony with nature. The traditional garment, attush, is a textile woven from the bark fibers of the Japanese elm. It's highly breathable, water-resistant, and durable, making it an important trade item for the Ainu people.
These garments are worn on special occasions or in settings that express Ainu identity. Elm is now rapidly declining in Hokkaido. Examining why this tree has nearly disappeared from the region and considering related environmental issues has become an important point of study in the preservation and continuation of Ainu culture.
On the day of arrival, a mixer was held for attendees to get to know each other.
Please take home a fun experience.
It's a grilled salmon.
Traditional Ainu dances were performed to welcome their friends from overseas. In Biratori town, to preserve the traditions of Ainu culture, residents devote themselves to practicing traditional dances, and at various welcome ceremonies and events, they present the results of their efforts. The mixer was enveloped in a friendly atmosphere, creating heartfelt connections. On day 2 of the forum, the group visited a local elementary school. This school holds programs to preserve Ainu culture and offers classes for students to learn the Ainu language. Traditionally, the Ainu had no written language, and it was passed down orally through generations. However, during Japan's modernization, the Ainu language fell out of use and came close to extinction. Later, as the importance of preserving Ainu culture was recognized, efforts began to pass on the Ainu language to future generations. At this school, it is woven into songs, games, and other activities so that children can enjoy learning it. Observing the class with keen interest was Darren Kipp from the state of Montana in the United States. He runs a school for the Blackfeet Nation and is passionate about preserving his community's unique language and culture.
The Ainu language is doing very well here. So I'm very, very pleased to be here. This type of work is hard work. You have to be creative and you have to be innovative. There's a saying my father had. He was the founder of our school, and he said there's no handbook on how to save your language. You can feel the connection. You can see the interaction.
At the end of the class, the visiting participants performed their own traditional music for the children. Learning about Indigenous peoples is a valuable opportunity for children to reflect on the importance of living in harmony with cultures from around the world, and encourages them to think for themselves. About 30 minutes from Nibutani, a quiet mountain area holds a spiritual home for the Ainu people.
The Ainu have spiritual beliefs connected to distinctive mountains and rock faces.
Chinomishiri, meaning the place we pray, is a site deeply cherished by the Ainu people. The vista of the exposed rock on the cliffs deeply moved the Ainu of the past, and the area became a place of spiritual reverence. They are asking that such places remain in their untouched, natural state. One person listening with particular attentiveness was Makahiapo Cashman. He is the director of a facility at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, dedicated to the preservation of indigenous cultures and their traditions for the future.
All these things are really important to us too, and seeing how you folks care for everything means a lot to me, and that's the relationship we have with our places. Well, Ako is our gods, is our many gods that we have, and our mountains and each one of our mountains we have names for each one, and again they're very sacred to us.
On the second day of the forum, participants gathered for an exchange event where everyone tried making traditional Ainu cuisine. They prepared shito, a traditional Ainu dish. It's made by grinding egg millet into flour and forming it into dumplings. Working together, 3 people took turns pounding the mixture, but the process is harder than it seems.
One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Long ago, before electric mixers existed, large quantities of shito were prepared for weddings, funerals, and ceremonies, and the work was said to have been done with a sense of enjoyment, just like now. The flour is kneaded together with rice powder, shaped into small round pieces and boiled to finish.
Okay, finish.
Heart.
The flavor is simple and somehow familiar, making the culture of this land tangible with every bite. Everyone is enjoying the event. A group of 5 visitors from Aotearoa, the indigenous name for New Zealand, performed Maori dance. One of the men bore a tattoo called Tāmoko on his face. It is a sacred Maori tradition that represents identity, lineage, and social standing. Today, the haka is performed at many rituals and events, but it was originally a traditional dance performed by men before going to war. Its powerful movements, loud chants, and fierce expressions were meant not only to intimidate opponents, but also to lift the warriors' morale and invoke the spirits of their ancestors. Singing and dancing together connected these indigenous peoples beyond the limits of language. Each land has its own rhythms and melodies, and through these cultural expressions, participants expanded their circle beyond ethnic boundaries while respecting one another's traditions. On the third day of the forum, participants traveled about an hour by car from Biratori to Shiraoi to visit the Upopoi Ainu National Museum and Park. Upopoi was established in 2020 with the goal of reviving and developing Ainu culture. Surrounding its lake are the National Ainu Museum and the National Ainu Park, collectively forming a place where visitors can learn about Ainu language, culture, and history through hands-on experiences. It serves as an invaluable symbol to strengthen public understanding of the culture of the Ainu. The staff from Upopoi, along with Nomoto Masahiro, director of the National Ainu Museum, welcomed the group of representatives of indigenous peoples from far and wide.
I am an Ainu man of this land.
I am truly delighted to be able to meet indigenous peoples from around the world. Your pioneering, creative, and sustainable experiences inspire new ideas and perspectives. I believe the museum itself holds potential for transformation. What matters is how indigenous peoples are involved, and whether it becomes a space where they can tell their own history and share their culture. Today, I hope you will experience Upopoi from an indigenous perspective and discover challenges we share in common.
The National Ainu Museum was established to honor the pride of the indigenous Ainu people, convey their history and culture from multiple perspectives, and connect this knowledge to future creation and development. One particularly striking feature is the beautiful Ainu patterns on handmade tools. The belt knife, makiri, displays individuality and creativity in the patterns on its sheath and handle. There are also ceremonial mats called chitarape used during rituals. Within their beauty is a reflection of the faith embedded in daily life. Next to the museum is a workshop where visitors can observe Ainu craftsmanship. Demonstrations are held both to preserve traditional skills and to train successors. Upopoi also offers programs showcasing traditional Ainu performing arts and dances, playing a key role in sharing the richness of Ainu culture. One visitor had been eager to visit Upopoi. Migoto Eria from Te Papa, New Zealand's National Museum. She attended alongside her colleagues. As head of the Maori department, Migoto has worked to strengthen the relationship between the museum and the Maori people. During a lecture at Upopoi, she spoke about the importance of Indigenous peoples participating directly in museum activities. Due to past colonization, the rights of the indigenous inhabitants were taken away, and they faced discrimination. Indigenous communities have since spent many years fighting to reclaim their rights and restore their culture, shaping a long history of resilience and cultural revival.
I think it's consistent with all of our Indigenous cultures is to stay resilient and to carry on. And there'll be still work to do in the future as well to ensure that Māori are telling their own stories and speaking for their own taonga rather than having other people who are not Māori speaking on their behalf.
3, 2, 1, Upopoi! One more!
Vicky Bold serves as the head of the Indigenous Initiatives Department at Bishop's University in Canada. She has visited Hokkaido many times and has come to cherish the connections made with the people she has met.
I have to say that I'm encouraged. To see the changes that have happened. To have Nomoto-san as now executive director. I think having more Ainu employees and representation, I think that's a move in the right direction.
Indigenous peoples around the world are slowly but steadily seeing their efforts to reclaim their pride and dignity receive wider recognition under the principle of coexistence.
In the world of Indigenous peoples, we tend to distance ourselves from museums, and especially researchers, with a lack of trust, resulting in strained relationships. Here, however, the museum and the Cultural Preservation Park are integrated, allowing the museum and the Ainu community to work closely together in transmitting culture. This close collaboration is a defining feature of Upopoi, and it enables us to share the appeal of Ainu culture with a wider audience.
The International Indigenous Peoples Forum enters its final stage. A reporting session was held where the Ainu and other Indigenous peoples from around the world reported on their past initiatives and research findings. Daly Sambo Duro served as chair of the Inuit Council for the Protection of Rights for 5 years, starting in 2018. As an expert in international human rights law, she has also provided advice and recommendations to the United Nations Human Rights Council on issues that affect Indigenous peoples. During the session, Duro emphasized that Indigenous communities also continue to face threats from climate change and resource development, and she delivered a powerful message about the importance of safeguarding their rights for future generations.
So many issues that are beginning to accumulate and adversely impact Indigenous peoples. And I think that our involvement in these dialogues and debates at the international level is so crucial. I think the world community can also learn from the knowledge of Indigenous peoples. And it's highly intricate and sophisticated and worth taking the time to learn and understand for present-day problems and present-day scientists looking at these issues.
George Nicholas has been active in the field of Indigenous archaeology for over 35 years.
The outside experts return home.
He emphasized that the definition of Indigenous cultural heritage includes not only tangible objects, but also intangible elements, such as the relationship of people with land and nature. He argued that in order to protect culture and landscapes, action plans and support that respect Indigenous values are essential.
When different Indigenous groups come together, they can talk about their shared experiences, but also learn from each other in terms of how they have helped to revitalize their culture, their language, and protect their lands. And what we need to realize is that Indigenous peoples are themselves always changing. And I know that many of the people here have already visited the other communities, and new relationships are developing here that will continue and broaden this. So it's a wonderful exchange of cultures.
The 5-day exchange between Indigenous peoples from around the world and the Ainu created a space for dialogue and learning that crossed borders, generations, and culture, allowing participants to share in their wisdom and pride. This forum is the first chapter in a new story, carrying hope for the future of Indigenous communities everywhere.